So thanks again, everyone, for coming to this. The idea is to give you good insight into the updates Cryptio is making behind the scenes, updates that are live and that you might not even know are there. So this is just to make sure you're well educated in what Cryptio is doing, and feel free to follow up after to get deeper dive training sessions and whatnot. But overall, we're going to look at some product updates from the principal markets, the completeness module, and also some other recent updates. We also have some industry outlooks where we've recently rolled out Colossal, which has brought a ton of changes to Cryptio, making it more like the most auditable tool out there. And run through some upcoming events and some behind the scenes of what Cryptio is doing to help with the fair value transition. And then we'll wrap it up with some Q&A. Man.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So as always, everyone, our support center is there. So for every topic that we cover within this webinar, prior webinars, future webinars, we try to have all of that information available as well. And that's just going to be at support.cryptio.co. So as Jeff mentioned, the primary topic for today is going to be around principal markets. It's really going to be us diving into, one, what is the relevance of it from an accounting perspective, but also how does Cryptio approach it to make sure that you can meet the standard required from both an accounting and an audit perspective. Currently, what we're rolling out and what is currently in the product is that there are 5 main principal markets that we offer just in-house, in-app. Those 5 are Kaiko, CoinGecko, Binance, Binance UK, and Coinbase. We're actually going to be rolling out a how-to guide to go along with all of this information, so you can see what are the different nuances in terms of the pricing between each of these principal markets. So that'll just go an extra step in helping you make a decision in terms of what pricing do you think is most relevant for you and for your business. Each of these now, when you go into your Cryptio workspace, in the back office section that we're going to be diving into in a bit, you actually have the option to freely change this at any given time. There's tons of flexibility there in terms of what we've seen from auditors and what we've heard from customers as well, that it's really important to be able to adjust these maybe on a year-to-year basis if needed, but also just transparency into how the pricing works behind the scenes. In addition to all of this, we have a principal markets audit report. And basically, this is how we track and make sure that the pricing that we are providing within each of these principal markets is accurate compared to the on-chain data sources. And again, there's going to be a help center article around this, so stay tuned. I'm going to do a quick demo. So here I have screenshots of what it looks like in app, but I also want to dive into it directly from Cryptio so you can see how easy it is to make this change. Can everybody see my screen? Jeff, looks good?
Yep.
So you can see here in your Cryptio workspace, if you come over to the left where you have access to your different workspaces, you click on the relevant one, you go to Manage Workspace, and you select on the workspace that you're currently in. As you scroll down here, you have the option to select a price provider. And again, as I mentioned, this includes a bunch of different ones. Our default currently is the CoinGecko hourly pricing providing. So what that means is hourly updates from CoinGecko on all of the transactions that you import based on your sources. We also give you options for Binance, Binance US, Coinbase, and historically, we provided daily CoinGecko. So for those who want to keep that consistency with this prior method, you have the option here as well. One additional thing that I do want to point out is you have the option to select this as of today, or you could retroactively go back and update this if in the event you're going through an audit or you're just going through a review and you realize, hey, historically, we actually want to make an adjustment here and you haven't gone through a full audit yet, you have that option. Additionally, we also give the ability to do it by asset. So again, in the event that you have maybe different revenue streams and different operating modules in your company, you have the option here to select, well, for BTC, I think it's most appropriate to get this from Coinbase, but maybe your ETH mining, you want to get this from CoinGecko. Again, this is all about giving you flexibility that we can meet whatever the standard is that you need for yourself and then also for your audit.
Tremaine, I think one important thing here to note is that, we've done a deep review with a Big Four firm around this and rolling it out, and the importance of picking a single source principal markets. We kept pushing for, a global volume weighted average like a CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, and they just kept saying, no, that's not the standard. That's not acceptable. I think right now they're okay with it just because they know the limitations with pricing, but this is best practice, and this is where things are ultimately going to be pushed into. So, Cryptio is getting ahead of it, making sure that we are up to the, the highest standards of pricing and giving that to our clients.
Yeah, it's a great point, Jeff. And just to add to that, I think what you find is a lot of people in the space right now, in terms of crypto accounting, they are going with that method that Jeff mentioned of this global weighted average. But following our conversations from the Big Four review, we actually took the time here to make sure that we provide this sort of long-term view into what it should actually be.
I just want to say thank you guys for doing that. It's really awesome. I was in a Big Four audit a couple of years ago, about a year and a half ago, and we kept having this discrepancy because the auditor was pulling their pricing from somewhere different than Cryptio. So it was like causing this fractional, very marginal to be off. And they kept, well, what is this? And it was a very old school person that was there. So they were pulling from like Yahoo Finance or something. But anyways, I just really appreciate that. It's a super cool feature to have.
Thank you, Anthony. We still don't offer Yahoo Finance, by the way, so hopefully they're okay with that. Okay, so now jumping into the audit readiness module. So this is a completely new section that we're super excited to roll out by the end of this quarter for what in Cryptio. So these three currently we do have, but we have plans to add in even more features within these. And this is really, really trying to hone in on the vision of making sure that not only are we a subledger and that we're an accounting product, but that we also help you to become completely audit ready from a full scope. The three sections that we've sort of broken this down into is data integrity, inventory, and then reconciliation. The data integrity side is completely dedicated to proving all of the data that we provide within Cryptio and comparing that to an auditable on-chain source of truth. So, similar to the example that Anthony just gave, what we've noticed in a lot of audits is that it's not good enough to just say, hey, we're doing this. You have to sort of show an audit trail to say, this is where we're getting the prices, this is where we're getting the prices from. This is also supporting, this is why we made a decision to get the prices this way, like our Big Four review and things like that, because it really adds a lot of structure and a lot of confidence within the product itself. So the key feature here under data integrity is our in-app sanity check. So prior, this was something that needed to be requested manually, and then we would go back on our side within Cryptio, download a report and provide it to the customer. Now everyone has access to this inside of Cryptio itself. And what the sanity check is, it's basically for all of the assets that you hold, all the pricing that we show you and the volume, we do a direct check to on-chain API sources, one to verify the volume within Cryptio and the balance within Cryptio matches to the balance that you see on-chain within your wallet itself. So at any given time, if you download a report and you're looking at, okay, I see that Cryptio says I have 10 ETH, but how can I really get comfort around this? This is going to be your go-to place here, just in terms of verifying and validating all of the volume balances that you see. This also includes pricing around this. So going back to the principal market in combination with this, you'll see from the principal market side how we're getting the pricing. And then with the in-app sanity check, a direct comparison on chain to make sure this matches. So if you're using like Coinbase or one of these other exchanges, they have their own pricing. You can compare, you can do all of these things now within the app. You don't need to download a report anymore. The second one here is dedicated to inventory. So one other thing that we've seen come up often is not just around verifying the data on pricing and volume, but also how do we know that all of the data imported in Cryptio is all of the data that exists within the company's umbrella, all of the different sources, things like this. And with our new EVM multi-chain, and EVM here stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine, that basically just means all different contracts that live within the Ethereum blockchain. We now allow you to import a single address, and this address will track all of the activity that this one address has done across all the different Ethereum blockchains. So in the event that you've only imported, let's say, your Coinbase or your MetaMask or whatever the case is, if these wallets have interacted with any number of other wallets that isn't also within Cryptio, this will help you identify that and then maybe go back internally and see, is there a wallet that we missed and forgot to import within Cryptio? And it's basically just another way for you to verify the completeness of all the data that you provide to us. The third bit is going to be around reconciliation. I know this one is a huge topic for everyone, especially on this call. Here, what we are now giving you is an in-app trial balance. So it's a live view at any given time of all of the different accounts that you've mapped within Cryptio, what the balances are, and you can see debit and credit balances to sort of identify, is there anything that looks off here in terms of having a credit balance within my assets, or an unusually large expense account, which maybe indicates that I mapped something incorrectly or something like this. So it's just another way to sort of reduce the friction in you being able to take a step back from all of the work you've done and compare the data that we're providing, the completeness of all the data imported, and then also reconciling any mapped activity that we've done within the product.
Just to jump in again, Tremaine, I think a lot of what we're talking about here are just building controls within Cryptio, so you could have multiple controls listed in how you're helping your month-end close process, but more importantly, how you stand up to the audits, and listing out your controls to mitigate different risks that they foresee as a potential issue. And Tremaine will get more into that on the next slide, but just wanted to quickly jump in.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. So here, this is just a snapshot of the 3 different sections that I went over. So in the top left is your sanity check. And actually, I think I can just pull up. Yeah, I can give you a live demo of what this looks like exactly. So it's going to be down here in this section now that we're now calling audit readiness. And this top one is dedicated to the data integrity. So the sanity check, like we just talked about. And here it compares all of the different sources. So all of the different assets that you hold within your portfolio, what source or what wallet, and then it compares it directly to the Ethereum API. So in the event that, let's say we're showing a balance of 10 ETH, but here when we ping to the API says actually this person should have 12 ETH. Here you'd have a discrepancy that shows how much it is, what percentage of the portfolio the discrepancy represents. So in that example, if you're off by 2 ETH, but it's roughly 2/12, now you're saying 1/6 of my portfolio is wrong because I'm missing 2 ETH. So it's just another way again for you to not only see, do you have any discrepancies, but what are the sizes of the discrepancy, and is it something that causes concern? One interesting note here is that you're having complete discrepancy or completely no discrepancy within a portfolio isn't necessarily the goal, because you do still have situations like spam tokens that get airdropped that we don't price that's something that everybody's well aware of, but this is really a way for you to isolate, okay, what are my discrepancies? And is it something that I can easily create a disclosure for to say, hey, if I take a look at this, I am off by 0.5%, but these I can clearly indicate are all spam tokens. And that's something that we're comfortable with because it's not part of our overall business. Second section here is to the inventory, so completeness. So you can see we break down what are the different supported chains within the Ethereum blockchain that we support. How many wallets have you imported within each one? And it also identifies, are there any potential missing wallets based on all the interactions that we can see with these addresses that we might recommend, hey, you might need to import these within the different categories. So again, one of the things that we saw was really important was just not only providing the information to you, but giving you an easy way to fix these as you go through this process. And then finally, this is the trial balance section. This is a demo account, so maybe not the best because we haven't set up mapping on this, but just to give you a highlight of what the layout will be, you'll get all of your different asset, expense, income, liability, and equity accounts here. You can see all of the different balances. So kind of going back to what I said earlier, it's a good way for you to just get a gut check of, do these look right? If my expense accounts look unusually high, does that indicate that maybe I've mislabeled something or something similar for the revenue side? And then down here is just a breakdown of not only at the high level expense and revenues, but specifically which expense and revenue accounts. So maybe it's the case that it's not mislabeling for all expense accounts, but it might have been just one that, you know, I missed while I was doing this or something like that. And then finally at the bottom, you'll get to see all transactions within the workspace that has not been mapped to a chart of account. Again, it's just another way to give you more information so you can easily identify and jump to providing some resolution there. What's to come? So I know I said right now we're super excited about the audit readiness module. I just showed you the 3 different sections, but we have a bunch of different features that we are really excited to roll out for you. Those include additional insight into the data integrity module. Right now, this is only available on our side within Cryptio, but this is going to be rolled out to all customers. So you'll be able to get the exact view that I just showed around the different sanity checks and the data integrity side of it. We're going to also add in an internal control dashboard. And what this means is we recognize that auditing is not just about the accounting and the data, but it's also about internal controls that you have around this. And we have a bunch of new features here that we're going to be rolling out to not only show you what are the different important internal controls to an audit that we've vetted through conversations with Big Four and other leaders in the space, but also taking a look at how can you test these. And if you test these and these fail, what are potential reconciliations that you can do within Cryptio to get comfort that your internal controls are good, at least within Cryptio itself. Additional tools are going to be around DeFi reconciliations, asset reconciliations, and more, but this is really just to give you a teaser on top of everything that we've talked through so far. Recent updates and useful reports. So this section is for things that already exist, but we recognize that not everyone might be aware that these are available. So just thinking about the features and the report side of things, we have a bunch of reports that people don't use that often, but could be extremely valuable just in terms of you going through your workflow. The first one is going to be the transfer statement report. And this report basically just isolates all internal transfer transactions that you might have within Cryptio. As you know, all of these typically are automatically flagged on our side by looking at the volume, exchange time, matching these up, things like that. But it's a good way, especially if you're, maybe doing the accounting for a digital broker or something like this, who are required to have a report around all internal transfer contacts. isolates that immediately, and you can see and identify, okay, these are all the internal transfers. These are all the related contacts to each of these internal transfers, just so you make sure that you're compliant. Journal sequence, and by the way, all of this, once we send this out, have links to the actual guide online, so you can see how to access each report. Just in the interest of time, I'm not going to click through each one here. Journal entry, journal sequential numbering report. This one is dedicated to, as you go through and you sync your journal entries period to period, it's just a way for you to track each one that has been synced. If you, let's say, have resynced a transaction, it gives you an audit trail into what transactions have been resynced, the numbers behind each one. So what we've seen with a couple of the ERP softwares is that once you resync something, it overrides that original number. So you're not always able to track what was the original journal entry that I made here. This is just another way to give you an audit trail around that. Wallet custom transaction report. This is a report dedicated to showing you all of the custom wallets that you've imported into Cryptio. So if you have, let's say, a bunch of different exchanges connected, but then you also have some transactions that you've imported in, let's say via CSV or something like this, between the wallet custom transaction report and the manual prices tracker report, both of these will show you identifying which ones were imported custom via CSV. And if I changed any price from what Cryptio originally priced it as, what transactions did I update? Again, it's just a good way as you're going through an audit to say to an auditor, here are all the transactions that I had to reprice, maybe due to some internal policy. This is why we do it. And it's just giving all the transparency that you need around these disclosures without you having to dig through every transaction and figure that out yourself. Last but not least, on the feature side is going to be the pegging system. So now we're giving the option not just to peg assets to other assets, and maybe for wrap token purposes or something like this, but also for stable coins. So now you're able to, well, you've always been able to, but this is just something we want to highlight, is that you can peg your stable coins to $1. So not every business based on your operating module might want the stable coins to go to 0.0001. They might want to keep this because they use it sort of like as a bank account. So they want it pegged to $1. All of these systems here between the assets or the stablecoin pegging is what helps you to get that consistency around the pricing for these. New chain integration. So we've rolled out Gnosis, Optimism, and the EVM multi-chain connector that I mentioned earlier. These are all relatively new. So just wanted to highlight these again, that they've come out maybe within the past month or two, but they're super exciting for a lot of the people that do use them. And for those who don't, they might not know it exists. So this is just a good way to highlight these. Any questions on the product side or anything that we've gone over, myself and Jeff? Okay, cool.
Sorry, just a quick one. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. Hi. Sorry, just a quick one. If there was the instance where our clients had changed their costing basis, from either FIFO or to WAC per wallet, would that also update with the accounts breakdown once we resync the journals that go into the accounting software that we were shown in the reconciliation tab now? Or would that be something that we have to just make notice for?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. And we've had a lot of conversations around this sort of cost basis migration topic. So one, it will show the new cost basis that the client has moved over to. All of our reconciliation modules will now show that information. So if you want to do, let's say, a before and after, what we recommend is before making the switch, you could download a couple reports, maybe the asset roll forward. You could take, take stock or screenshot of all of the different modules to see what the before is. And then once you make that switch over, you can compare the before and after to see, do you want to make any adjustment entries due to the switch or something like that? So you have a couple options there between using the report and then using the modules to kind of see what was the impact of us switching from, let's say, a universal method to a per wallet method or something like this.
That's perfect. Thank you. That answers it perfect.
Thanks, Damien. Okay, cool. So I'm going to throw it over to Jeff just to jump into some general industry updates.
Yes, so a lot of what Tremaine covered is part of the Colossal release. I mean, what we're seeing in the industry is, I feel like companies started on spreadsheets. They realized spreadsheets weren't the solution. They weren't maintainable or scalable. So they brought on, a lot of times the first accounting crypto platform that they reviewed. It was good enough to help them get their job done, help them close their books. But now what we're seeing is 2022, 2023, a lot of companies going under, audit firms in turn being blamed for not being good enough, not doing their job well enough. So we're seeing it go from not good enough or just good enough to now these companies, even startup mode, to put in their mindset that things need to be excellent. Things need to be fully auditable, because just because you're not being audited this year doesn't mean next year you're not going to have a full-scale audit. And as many of us know, the first-year audits are extremely painful. So to put in a solution that will get you there and help you scale your company is super important. And that's where Cryptio is putting in tons of time. Our devs have put in countless hours, extra hours, just to make sure we roll this out sooner than later. Just to help scale, not just enterprise grade, but startups into enterprise grade. Now, I mean, they need to take the system supporting their financials just as serious as every other aspect of their business. And I think one of the things we need to educate most is the cost of these products. I mean, they're not going to be cheap, but these products are going to do the majority of the work for the financial reporting and making sure that what you're doing is sound. So that's why Cryptio has run our own nodes, our own archival nodes. We've indexed all of our own chains. I think there's something like 10% that we don't support in-house, but it's that, we wanted to roll it out to market sooner than later, but that's our next steps to make sure it's all in-house. So as things change, we could re-index the chains and make sure that all the data is 100% complete. And that brings us on to the next page where Tremaine talked about the principal markets. Both the principal markets and the pricing and the asset balances are by far the most important thing when doing reporting at fair value. So as many of you know, the FASB has come out with pretty accelerated guidance. Looking for final feedback by June 6th in helping companies transition to fair value. Now, what is Cryptio going to do to help there? So it all starts with the transactional detail that we capture. Because we track everything at the unit lot level, and we track the change, more importantly, from the cost it comes in at to the impaired value, the book value that you should maintain from the impaired cost, and the fair value based on the current prices and the current principal markets that we're providing. Transitioning to fair value within Cryptio is fairly easy, believe it or not. And it's almost a disclaimer of beware of how other systems are doing this. Are they tracking the unit lot level at the book value? Because if they're not, the transition to fair value will be extremely painful. You're not going to have the proper adjustments because potentially it's going off of cost, and going from cost to current value will not represent your books and records accurately. So we put in a lot of time, a lot of effort to make sure everything down to the unit lot level is tracked 100% accurately. And in doing that, we can provide an easy roadmap and an easy transition for you and the teams using Cryptio. So where we're going to start is with the customer team. Amber is in charge of the whole customer and the client teams that we support, is providing a very good roadmap in how we get there, how you understand how Cryptio is going to get you from current cost reporting into fair value. And it's going to be a very standardized list showing you from step 1 to step 10 in how you get there. And not only how you get there, but now how you maintain the fair value and what is used within Cryptio's reporting suite to make sure that you could report accurately. We have something like 26 reports. So it is making sure that you understand what reports are important for cost, for fair value, and how you can interpret and use those going forward. It's also to break down. I know a lot of us are GAAP reporting, but there's also IFRS. Now that's not included in fair value. So it's to also help companies understand how to use Cryptio, because Cryptio could do any type of reporting. It just matters what type of report you're using or how you use the different functionalities like impairment, which might not be going away for IFRS. So it's to make sure you fully understand, no matter what region you're in, how Cryptio will support you from the customer side. And that all leads from the product team, which Tremaine is helping lead. He's helping understand all the different guidelines from the FASB to HMRC and what is needed within Cryptio, and how do we make sure that Cryptio is supporting all that. So he's working daily with the product team to understand, if and when the FASB comes out with final guidance, how do we exclude wrap tokens if wrap tokens need to be excluded? How do we exclude NFTs from fair value reporting? And how do we now segregate the two sections within Cryptio? So these little nuances aren't a thorn in your side, but that it's just another functionality or way to use Cryptio. So he's working closely with the product team to make sure all these changes, not just with the FASB, but any kind of changes coming up like MiCA, for example, Cryptio can handle it and handle it well. Ultimately, our goal is to have a journal entry report, which would support your fair value reporting, just to streamline and automate it. And ultimately, this is a little further down the road, but to provide more batch reporting, either on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whatever the frequency is that you'd like to see the fair value, because we know how important fair value is now, because the valuation of an entire company will change very drastically. So the likes of a CFO are going to want to see this insight, and not if not from their internal teams. I think it'll be great for our accounting partners to provide this insight and these analytics to the CFO, and making sure that it's as easy as possible for them in getting a daily workflow complete. Because as we know, daily workflows or daily controls, in the end, weekly and monthly reporting becomes easier and easier. So we have a suite of reports, and this is what the customer team is going to review with you, including an asset roll forward, which is going to be a part of the FASB's disclosure requirements. We already have this consolidated journal entry report, like mentioned above. This will help you streamline and automate your journal entries based on the frequency you want to see it. We have the trial balance report, which Tremaine highlighted before, but not just in the UI, but within a report that can be generated, which can be shared with your teams. Portfolio balance reports. I mean, we have a number of reports that could be viewed from extremely granular to extremely high level. And the reason is because we track it at the unit lot level. So you could see any variety of summary to detail. And as Tremaine mentioned earlier, we also have a reconciliation process. So you could see the high level summary and what makes up that from the low level granular details. The next two aren't as important for you, but I mean, just to give you a little insight of what we're doing. Our team is training the marketing and sales team with all these changes, so they understand the reports that they're using. They understand the functionalities. So as you guys onboard new clients, like you'll get the same treatment from the accounting strategy team that you will from our sales or marketing team. And then just ongoing support. We're going to just make sure that we're on top of all guidelines, not just this FASB, and that Cryptio is the most auditable tool out there, and that ultimately those who use Cryptio will ultimately save money. I think a lot of people are budget conscious, but what a lot of people don't realize is how expensive audits can be. The easier the audit, the more money you save. You could easily save 50% with your audit cost if you have a fully functionable tool that is tried and tested and that the auditors know well. And that's one thing we're also focusing on, is just educating auditors, making sure they're well aware of all these changes that we're sharing with you. It's not just you, we're making sure that they also understand, because the better they understand, the better your lives are going to be, because they'll understand what support and control risk framework Cryptio brings to the companies you're supporting. So this is some upcoming events we're going to be at. Myself and Amber will be in Bitcoin Miami. So if you're there, please be sure to reach out. Always love seeing familiar faces or people using Cryptio. Love to meet you if I haven't met you yet. We're going to be at the Digital Accountancy Show in London. That will probably be more of our UK and London team focusing on that. And then ECC in Paris. Again, primarily our London and UK team, or our London and Paris teams. But keep us in mind, reach out, and let's meet up at these events. And then last but not least, I mean, everything we just covered here, you could download our guide to getting audit ready, making sure your companies are ready to be audited. This will summarize in much more detail what we just covered. And if you have any questions in addition to what's here, just reach out, give us a call, ping us on Telegram, any way works. So that wraps it up. Not just questions here, but in general, if anyone wants to ask a question or talk about a topic, we have about 5 minutes to discuss anything.
Yeah, this is Adam. I had one question on the DeFi, like the staking liquidity balances that showed up on the dashboard. I see that you're pulling that data in. Is there any plan on the roadmap to make a report around that data? Right now it's in real time. It would be nice to be able to see that, like, historical balances of the staking, like the staked assets on those contracts.
Yeah, I can say this one. So actually, that's a really interesting point. We haven't had a ton of conversation around that, but I can see how that'll be very useful to companies that, especially ones that primarily have large staking operations, to just see the historical track of all of these. I mean, one thing that you do have is, assuming that all of these transactions are labeled, you could see the historical sort of labeled transaction view within your reports to see how much it's changed over time. But in terms of just a specific report dedicated to this, we don't have one, but that would be a very interesting one to include in our upcoming revamp.
Thanks, Tremaine.
And I would say DeFi is not something we talk about too much, but I mean, we're indexing these all these DeFi protocols, so we're getting all the data. It's not an easy task to do. It's not something you should really trust from a third-party provider. So, I mean, again, just stressing the importance of indexing these chains yourself and just indexing them on repeat until you get 100% of the data. All right. If there are no more questions, we could wrap this up. But yeah, if you haven't joined our accounting partner community, please join. And we'll be in touch that way. We'll be in touch monthly on these webinars, but it's great to have everyone involved. And please just keep reaching out on our Telegram chat as well if you have any inquiries into the crypto accounting world. We'll all work together and help each other get to a solid solution.
Just to echo what Jeff said, thank you everybody for joining today. This is, Jeff, I think our third, fourth, yeah. There, yeah. So it's good to see everybody, familiar faces and new faces that continue to join these.